Hello, I'm Mandie Stravino, Chief Executive of DCG. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar. We're delighted to have been selected as one of the 3 Centres for Excellence in SEND, along with Western College, focusing on people, and City College Norwich, supporting on community. Our curriculum strand, how to ensure that the curriculum always has a clear purpose, so that learners with SEND have the potential to achieve their aspirations, combines our 2 areas of specialism, our inclusion provision and our partnership work with employers. During our last Ofsted inspection, both of these areas of work were recognised as excellent. Our provision for learners with high needs was graded outstanding, and Ofsted said the partnership working with employers to design and deliver the curriculum is outstanding. This work was also recognised in the Chief Inspector's annual report of that year. Although we feel well placed to lead on this strand, we are also very aware that we can always improve further and really welcome the opportunity to work with colleagues from across the FE system to co-create projects which will benefit all of those involved. Today's webinar will cover an introduction to DCG, our project team, and our inclusion journey so far, an outline of our intentions for the project and our key priorities. I'll now hand over to Sarah to introduce the project team and explain their roles in the delivery of the project.
My name is Sarah Lagood. I'm the Head of Inclusion here at DCG. I'm working and heavily involved in the project as it develops, and I've been in the college for 6 years, so I've seen lots and lots of the developments and I've supported the teams along the way. Our project team is diverse, and during our webinar you will hear from a variety of staff, both drawn from the project as well as leaders, managers and students involved in other inclusion projects from across our organisation. The Leadership Hub will be led by Mandie Stravino, our CEO, supported by Heather, our Deputy CEO, and Kate, our Vice Principal. Along with me, Anita Devi and Sarah Simons. Sarah is a strong voice in the FE sector and is able to reach and influence organisations to be involved and participate in our activities. She's also a very passionate teacher of students with inclusion needs, and we've worked alongside each other for many years. Anita Devi at Team ADL works with a whole team of specialists on solution-focused approaches for a variety of partners, ensuring improvement in special educational needs and disability planning, teaching and achievement. Our 3 communities of practice will be led by leaders from within our organisation. Helen Lewis is currently our team manager for Pathway to Working Life. Ben Walkerdine is my inclusion specialist who leads on digital transformation and embedding inclusive technology in all we do. And Benny Willis is a team manager in Pathway to Independent Living. Helen, Ben and Benny all work extensively on creating individualised programmes and curriculum experiences for a wide variety of students with complex needs and those with relatively minor learning difficulties and disabilities who need adjustment in teaching, learning and assessment. As Mandie's already mentioned, we are on a journey. Our inclusion journey is never ending, and whenever we think we've almost finished, we find a new set of inclusion needs that we need to adjust for. One of the things that's really key to our success is to make sure that we're working in synchronicity with the other Centres for Excellence. So working on engaging the community and making sure we're firmly embedded and working alongside employers, and that will be working with City of Norwich College. And also working on people development and making sure that there are clear plans in place to develop people's skills, knowledge and behaviours around inclusion, and that's being led by Western College. Each of the 3 Centres for Excellence is built on the same premise, that we need first to impact on leaders and managers and challenge ourselves to look at organisational strategy. That will inform the activity in each of the leadership hubs. And each of the Centres for Excellence will have their own leadership hub around their specific focus. Secondly, each of us as a Centre for Excellence will have communities of practice, 3 of them, and we'll cover what the communities of practice intention are from the curriculum perspective at the end of our webinar. I'll hand back to Mandie, who will give you a brief description of our organisation overall, and then we'll play one of our most recent Derby College Group videos to give you a flavour of what we do.
DCG includes 4 colleges, 1 land-based college, 1 A-level centre and 2 technical colleges. All of our colleges are inclusive and support SEND students. It's our job, as reflected in our strategy statements, to create optimistic futures for all of our students by nurturing their talents and preparing them to make the effective transition to the next stage of their journey, be that the world of work, entrepreneurship, higher education, independent living, and to contribute as positive citizens.
So now you've seen Derby College in its entirety, what I'd really like to focus on before we move on to our project is to look at how we have developed our strategic organisation ambitions and how they are developed and how they are communicated, enacted and evaluated through a cycle of quality improvement. Heather, would you mind explaining to us?
I believe a key to us ensuring our organisation strategy is understood by all comes from the involvement and engagement we have with teams from across the college in developing our strategy. Open events are held to encourage consultation around our strategy and information considered both around government priorities in the national picture as well as local and regional needs in the communities in which we serve. Once the strategy has been agreed and finalised, alongside some of the standard admin practices to assess performance towards achieving our ambitions, we ask areas to share their own achievements and impacts towards achieving the ambitions contained with the overall strategy, and we celebrate those achievements both in teams and across the wider college. For us, inclusion is embedded in our overall strategy.
Mandie, would you explain what we use as our change management process and how that's embedded into all of our curriculum development and curriculum business planning processes?
Over the last few years, we have embedded entrepreneurial thought and action, design thinking experiments into our strategic and curriculum planning process. This concept has supported innovation and cultural change in our curriculum and inclusion delivery, driving continuous improvement. We measure the impact of our purpose to predict and serve the needs of our business and civic communities by a plethora of KPIs, including students' achievements, student voice, employer voice, and positive progression and destinations.
Kate and I will now talk about our inclusion journey to date, what our aspirations are for the future, and some of the internal and external drivers that we've used in order to effect change within our organisation.
Welcome to our webinar. I'm Kate Martin, Vice Principal here at DCG. Sarah will outline our journey, and then I'd like to mention the new Education Inspection Framework and our leadership challenges.
As I listened to Western College's webinar that was launched a few weeks ago, I was heartened to hear that their inclusion journey mirrored ours in many ways. Steadily over the past 6 years, we've seen significant growth in our very complex and high need students. We as an organisation have 169 funded places versus our current estimated cohort for 2019-2020 of just over 330 high need students. That leads us to having quite challenging conversations with our local authorities, but also being really clear about what flexibilities we've got in our curriculum and how we can meet the needs of a significant number of young people who would have previously left the local authority in order to be educated in specialist provision out of county, away from family and away from friends. That goes against our inclusion ethos because we generally believe that we are the right college for probably 98% of the young people in our locality. And if we can't meet their needs, we're very transparent and upfront about that and work significantly with local authorities on transition planning for more complex students. I joined the college about 6 years ago, and that was at the start of the strategic journey around moving from an ALS-based model into an inclusion and support service model. Part of that journey was around analysing what staff working in the inclusion service believed their responsibility was and how we should impact on the lives of young people. We did lots and lots of strategic review. We evaluated staff skills, we evaluated CPD, we established a really clear and consistent ethos across the support staff initially, and that's been cascaded into teaching teams to make sure that people understand the limits of what an inclusion service can do. Nobody comes to college to study inclusion, they all come to study plumbing, motor vehicle, A-levels and BTECs. We're merely a vehicle to make sure that we've actually met our mandatory duties under the Equality Act or the SEN Code of Practice. Kate will now talk about the beauty of the new Education Inspection Framework, our leadership challenges, and the element of leadership that we should all remember at all times on our journey to improve inclusion for our students.
As you can see, our journey has been forever moving towards an inclusive curriculum model. The Code of Practice placed a mandatory requirement on the post-16 sector to improve education for students with high needs. The standalone high need grade acting as a lever for change. I hope that the clear focus on SEN and inclusion in the new Education Inspection Framework will move from specifically high grade students to the whole college, the wider community, which is what this Centre of Excellence project is all about.
Thanks, Kate. An interesting reflection on the positive impact that the high needs grades had in the last Common Inspection Framework, and I think really useful to link that with the new Education Inspection Framework. I'm now going to ask Heather to outline what our curriculum actually is.
I think the term curriculum can sometimes be misconstrued as being simply a course of study leading to a qualification. I'd say that we define our curricula as giving students an experience, and that experience may have some general elements to it, as well as elements that are personalised to the individual students that are aimed to enable them to develop their skills, their competences and broaden their horizons, as well, of course, engaging them in learning. Our curriculum is holistic, inside and outside of the classroom, and as an organisation, it's important that all that work here understand how they can impact on a student's experience with us. And a fairly recent example is we had a team event for our estates team, which consists of maintenance team members and caretakers. And we encourage them to think about their own position in terms of how they can improve a student's experience of coming into college, simply from that point of welcoming them on the gate, saying good morning, wishing them luck in their exam, and telling them, giving them some insight into the differences that students have in their home life or in their personal life, and how in college we can create that environment where they're comfortable to talk to others, they're comfortable to come in contact with other people and share with them their own experiences or concerns during the day.
I think that's vital, and it demonstrates that we are being what we want students to be. So we are role modelling in everything we do, in every function in our college, which is, I think, vital for good inclusive practice.
Yes.
At DCG, part of our ongoing journey focuses on developing inclusion, knowledge and leadership at every level. My personal challenge has been to enact our intention. We have both internal and external, using both internal and external data to inform curriculum planning, and most importantly, change. Without a system to plan and measure impact, challenge ourselves and change experiences for students, inclusion becomes passive. I've worked with senior leadership teams to develop a co-created curriculum model and extensive guidance shared with our widest leadership team. This also relies on our excellent relationships with employers. Our curriculum business planning process relies on research-informed implementation and personalised and inclusive study programmes. ETF research that has informed the design of this project suggests that even in good organisations, leaders and managers responsible for ALS, learner support and inclusion can be isolated. Social Market Foundation research recently reinforced the significance of leadership and the impact that governors, CEOs and senior teams can have when the inclusion mission is alive and vibrant in an organisation. We have found that strategy, structure, sufficiency, self-assessment and a robust monitored quality process will support this.
Part of the tender process, specifically around our leadership hub, was to identify parts of our journey that we thought we could clearly communicate to other people to support them to make swift changes. We did that happily, and on the next couple of slides you'll see that we've identified 8 of the key activities that we think have been fundamental to us as a provider. So our Get to Know the CEO event has already happened, but you can still book and have a supportive phone call with either our CEO or with me as the project lead to make sure that we're aligned as far as what your aspirations are concerned, and then to look at the start of a strategic review around how your organisation is currently performing and what your key areas for improvement might be. I think the timing of this and also the Leadership Hub webinar today and the next activity are really key for lots of providers who have to complete a self-assessment process, and I think some of this development can support the quality improvement plans in lots of organisations. After the webinar today, our website will launch with the content of the rest of our activities. That will be within the next couple of weeks, and we will have a follow-up webinar which is about the launch of our communities of practice, and we'll cover that on our communities of practice slide. Our next incarnation of kind of evaluation is going to be around our design thinking activity 3, and also around the delivery of some appreciative inquiry training. The intention of that is that CEOs and middle managers with responsibility for operational enactment of inclusion and inclusive practice will attend in pairs and will work on developing their skills and knowledge around appreciative inquiry. We're working with ADL Associates on that, and we have some feedback from people who have effectively used appreciative inquiry in this field. So their feedback was that our work on implementing swift change supported by Team ADL through the appreciative inquiry training has been wonderful. It's enabled us to work from a positive base, carry out provision reviews, engage with staff, students and parents. This identified what was working well and has allowed us to build on this practice. Throughout, the teams worked collaboratively, showcased areas of excellence and then devised ambitious plans for the next academic year to plug the gaps. The impact of the work has been excellent as our curriculum provision has improved significantly. Coincidentally, relationships have flourished and leadership skills have been developed at every level, ultimately allowing our young people with special educational needs to have an even better educational experience. So it's something we're really keen to deliver, and we'll be delivering that in the North, the South and in the Midlands. Leadership Hub activities 5, 6, 7 and 8 will take place between November and March next year. Summatively, our conferences, we are hoping to be in March, and we are hoping to work collaboratively with our other 2 Centres for Excellence to have one really significant celebration about the progress we've made. Activity 5 is going to be a film, and we would invite you to engage in some of our other activities and then share some of the progress that we've made as a sector, and that will be in order to support other people who are perhaps just starting their inclusion journey to look at what they can do to simply change things around their marketing, around their web accessibility, around how they can improve transition or how they can improve interviewing, and then make sure that the Gatsby benchmarks are met for their cohorts of students. The Culture Change Workshop Activity 6 has got a title, but it's still very loose, and so we'd really like input and feedback from you as a sector as to what you'd like to get from that activity, and also to look at training needs analysis. And I'm aware that this can bridge the People Centre for Excellence, but really it's been a key for us, and embedding our lived experience of our staff and our students in that training has been vital. I'll just hand over to Kate to talk about design thinking.
We have seen a significant impact on DCG through the use of ETA, Entrepreneurial Thought and Action, and DTE, Design Thinking Experiments, and therefore have chosen this process to structure the Leadership Hub's activities 3 and 6. We look forward to working with you through the Leadership Hub and communities of practice, and hope to celebrate our progress at the National Conference.
Hello, I'm Helen Lewis, and I look forward to working with you all on the community, focusing on good careers education, information, advice and guidance, proactive transition and inclusive interviewing. Benny and I will be working closely together, and there will be elements of crossover between the 3 communities, which will all be following Latham Wenger's theories.
Hi, I'm Benny Willis. I'll be working on supporting our sector on using existing guidance and resources to inform the development of personalised study programmes to meet the needs of all students.
Hi, my name's Ben Walkerdine. My community will focus on challenging us all to embed inclusive strategies in teaching, learning and assessment, and of course working with the students to enable them to build resilience and strategies for them to achieve and progress. Will, who is currently a student at our A-level college, will follow me in talking to you about the advice he will give to the sector.
So Will, thank you for sharing your experiences with us. What advice would you give to leaders and managers in post-16 education to help them make sure that their curriculum is as inclusive as it can be?
Well, firstly, to all leaders and managers, I want to say that transition support is vital, because before the young person with autism or whatever disability they have, it's important to have that transition. So contact the support department within the college they want to go to. I call it like opening like a back door, because you're going in, you're finding out what the college is about and organising transition support. So maybe 4 or 5 of those before you actually start the college course, and support planning and reviews. So when it comes to like the 16-year-old, post-16 education, the 16-year-old and 17-year-olds should be in charge of what support they want, because at the end of the day, they're like, I see it, they're like the clients, because they're explaining what support works best for them, and reviewing that support every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks to make sure it's good, maybe potentially increasing it, like perhaps even like a traffic light system, a red, amber, green, because that is what my college use. And like on my unit, sometimes I have like red units, I need extra support in there, or like it just depends. Then staff training for autism, like that's really important, because autism's such a big part of post-teaching education, and staff need to understand what autism is, because it's not just ASD. There's different parts of autism. It affects different people. It affects different ways. There are people with autism who can't talk. There are people with autism who have social communication problems. So the staff training on every area of autism is vital for the success of that young person.
Thanks, Will.
No problem.
So before Mandie closes our webinar, we thought it might be useful to share with you our current inclusive priorities for the coming year. So the first of which is that Derbyshire and Derby City are leading a county-wide project around us becoming trauma informed, and that's every organisation or every facility that's working with young people. And it's clear that a lot of our young people are really struggling with a significant mental health difficulty. So we've embraced this project wholeheartedly and are looking forward to really understanding the impact of adverse childhood experiences and making sure that we are aware of the impact that they then have in the classroom. So it's again linking back to the Equality Act and making sure that we've anticipated the needs of our cohort of students, and that where we can, we've mitigated those needs by making sure that we've got systems and processes which are inclusive from the outset. We're also developing a specific support plan for our looked after young people and care leavers. Currently across the college we write over 900 support plans every year, and they are reviewed on a 6 or 12 weekly basis, and students are supported to RAG rate them. We've never really used that system to support other identified cohorts of students, and so that's our pilot for this year, and that's part of our design thinking project, and that will be something that we work on heavily over the coming term. Also, to start looking proactively at what we might do to differentiate for different generations, so to make sure that our staff have got the IT skills that are commensurate with the students that they're working with, but also to use some of that social pedagogy based research around the differences in young people, how they need to learn and what they enjoy. Most interestingly, in both Generation X and Generation Z, there's a real key understanding and feedback from those generations that it is about personal relationships. So whilst they love technology and they like the distance and that social media can create, that actually they learn far more actively and far more effectively by doing and by building really good peer relationships and really good relationships with their staff. So we've worked with Derby University, and we are going to be developing a social pedagogy approach, and we'll be delivering training to 40 staff in term 1 of the next academic year. Lastly, I'm going to ask Gemma, one of our HR staff, to outline how she will be working and using design thinking to inform our engagement practice.
Hello, my name is Gemma Greaves and I'm one of DCG's HR business partners. I've recently started to lead our Inclusive Employer Design Thinking project. While we are in the very early stages of the project, our research and data analysis has given us a great starting point to develop swift experiments for the coming term. Our key driver is the college's aim to proactively build a workforce that reflects the communities we serve.
Heather, can you briefly outline how we're going to maintain our focus on a whole organisational approach?
Priority has to be one about raising the profile of inclusion more so, and celebrating the environment in which we create to enable all to enjoy learning and working here. The inclusion isn't to be restricted to support for students, it's all embracing across the college services and the functions. Over the last few years, we've actively encouraged the business support functions to come together with the student support teams and the teaching teams, so that we can enable that mutual understanding and respect of each and how they link and are interdependent if we are to be successful. Together, we can break down barriers, whether they are barriers to learning, barriers to work, or barriers to engaging with others. So the inclusion journey isn't about simply hitting targets, it's about how we value and appreciate people of all abilities. We already, I think, strive to provide a workplace that's welcoming and where no one is disadvantaged. And areas such as HR, IT and estates already have endemic operations and practices to secure this. I think for the year ahead, or the end of the year ahead, will be the ideal for us will be that the workforce we have reflects those in the communities we serve, and that should be one priority of our inclusion journey. Our workforce should also be a role model to others, to other organisations as well. And for our students, I think we're already looking to offer many more enrichment opportunities that give them the chance to share both their experiences but celebrate differences.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you everybody for participating. I'll now hand over to Mandie to close our webinar.
The next step is to work with those with similar values to ourselves to explore how we, as inclusionists, might work together to develop ideas and implement changes in order to improve the inclusivity of our organisations, specifically to ensure that the curriculum is designed and delivered to prepare all students to make the effective transition to the next phase of their lives. The aim of our partnerships will be to strengthen curriculum design and delivery to facilitate positive outcome for SEND students and provide a rich, diverse workforce for employers. I look forward to working with you in the future.